So Pete was the one that had trauma from his mom.
Yes. Yes.
And you see that? But I was a good man.
Until you called me a dummy.
But I paid the bills.
But until you called me a
I
dummy.
always kept my job.
But until you called me a dummy.
Wow.
The disrespect is at levels.
But so this is right. But this is the thing that we don't understand, right? Especially as a young man coming up. If I pay the bills, if I go to work, if I'm not cheating on you, if I do all this thing, what you mean you're not happy?
That makes
Right.
you a responsible man, but not necessarily a good man.
Absolutely.
Baby, I just wanna be yours. I wanna be yours. I wanna be yours.
All right, women want to know if faith is a central part of a man's life and if he actively seeking and growing in his relationship with God. This question is gauge his commitment and spiritual maturity. What role does faith play in your life?
Are you really saved? Are you saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Spirit, or are you playing games? Okay? That's what they're asking. Okay?
I thought they were asking something else. So in my mind, what I heard was you gotta have faith to find a woman these days. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. That was not the question. You heard that too? You gotta have faith nowadays, right? Because they're not falling off trees like they used to.
No, the question is how does faith play a role in your single life right now? How does that look? Who want to go first?
I'm gonna let the martial arts guy.
Oh, wow. So I would say this. Faith is important, and I've developed what I call my 4 components of health before you date. One of them is spiritual health. When you are spiritually healthy, you're going to make better decisions because our values and our beliefs and our moral compass comes from our faith for most of us. And if that's in proper alignment, you're going to have better discernment when it comes to dating, who you date, why you're dating, and the purpose behind dating. So it's very important to me that that's in order. Not going to probably be a lot of bad decisions made when it comes to dating. So that's very important.
Okay. All right. And Pete, what do you think? How does faith play a role in your...
I was ready to eat. Well, you know, so it's interesting, not growing up in a household of faith, right? Not having good examples in terms of a mother and father. Faith has been my primary, and we're not just talking about faith, we're talking about the church. The church has been my primary source of wisdom when it comes to relationships. And so for me, growing up, the first critical thing as related to my faith was giving my life to the Lord under a pastor that modeled, right, what the Bible says in terms of what a good marital relationship should look like, right? It means something to see you all together, right? Because you all are modeling a great faith example for me. So the first thing, the way that faith has an impact on my life is I see biblical models of what godly relationships look like, right? And even though I'm divorced, because obviously I needed to see this more than once, right? Because the first time I was experiencing and going through my relationship, I wasn't following what I was seeing. You know what I mean? But that was still critical. And the way that I grew up in foster home and didn't have, any examples and all that, it was critical for me. I gave my life to the Lord under a pastor. His name was Dr. Charles Hawthorne. And he was a virgin before he got married. He was just a godly man of God. He didn't mess with the women or mess with the money. That was critical for me, and that was the first foundation. The church is important, faith is important, because they set my foundation for how I should be living in marriage. That was critical.
So, a quick question, Pete. Do you think that your first marriage might have failed because you weren't, or you didn't have that relationship with God like you do now?
That's right. Well, I would say the real reason my first marriage failed was because I brought so much trauma into the marriage, right? What we call it, the trauma or circumstances, bad circumstances. I mean, I've been to 13 different foster homes by the time I was 13 years, never had a father in my life, right? You bring your mess into the marriage, right? You bring your mess into marriage. And when you're young, it's really critical that you deal with that mess. Otherwise, it becomes something that you carry forward. So that was for me.
And you know what, just to piggyback off of what you just said, when I talked about my little 4 components, one of them is emotional.
Come on, that's good.
Because I think the biggest problems, I heard someone say this once, that marriage problems are actually easy to resolve.
Come on.
It's people's personal problems that they bring into marriage that complicate marriages.
That's good.
And coming into them unhealed is the biggest problem that I've seen with marriage. But it starts at dating.
Yes,
Because if you're
yes.
unhealed, you probably should not be dating.
Come on.
So you said the problem is trauma from your mama.
Or
Is
your
that what
daddy,
it is?
or your daddy.
Trauma from your mama or trauma from your daddy or whatever
Yes.
it is.
Yup.
That's unhealed.
It's unhealed.
You haven't sat on
It's
somebody's
unhealed
couch
trauma.
yet.
Yes. So a lot of people are walking around with unhealed or unresolved trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it came from family, some of it comes from bad relationships they've had younger, bad experiences dating, and they've allowed themselves to experience trauma and that they were never healed.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to carry that trauma into a relationship and worse into marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's
absolutely.
break that down. So one of the things that I like to think of is how do you talk to a woman, right? Well, if your daddy talked to your woman, if your daddy talked to your mama like she was garbage, right? That's what you learn, right? Isn't that what we learn?
Absolutely.
So you learn how to talk to your woman in less than a loving fashion. So one of my mentors, my pastor, I remember him saying, "Let your words always be seasoned with grace." Now I learned that after my divorce, right? But
You wait a minute. You learned that before you.
I learned it
after the.
and so and here's the
fact.
problem, right? When my wife would ask me certain or would say certain things, I'd be like, "Well, that sounds dumb," and then she would be offended.
No, wait a minute. Wait.
She would
Hold
be
up.
offended.
Did you actually say that sounds dumb?
I didn't have anybody to tell me I shouldn't say that, right? So I'm saying, well, that sounds dumb. And then she's like, well, no, that. She's like, why did you call me dumb? I said, I didn't call you dumb.
Oh,
I
you
said, that
absolutely. You
sounds
know you
dumb.
absolutely did.
No.
No, but in our
That's how it's
head.
received.
And
Yeah,
in my
that's how it's
mind,
received.
I'm just addressing what you said.
Oh, okay.
Right? I don't know why you slipped up and let that dumb thing come out your mouth. Right? But here's what, and so then what happened is she would say this. She was like, well, that hurt my feelings. Now, part of I spent a majority of my life on the east side of Detroit, right? So I got to come back
East
for that.
side.
I got to come back, right? You say, well,
Right.
that hurt my feelings. Well, that's what the altar is for on Sunday. You can go get healed.
Oh no, you didn't.
I had to come back.
Pete!
I had to come back.
Oh boy.
So
I had to
so
come back.
Pete was the one
Oh,
that
boy.
had trauma from his mom.
Yes. Yes.
And you see why I got a divorce.
Right.
Now we
You
see.
see why?
Right.
Well, I like that you're being honest
I
and
know.
transparent
Well, I
about
know
it,
me.
like, because
I know
usually
me.
people blame the other person,
No, I know
but
me.
he's taking ownership.
I know me.
Yeah, I'd have divorced you, buddy.
That's horrible.
Wow.
I love you, but it'd have been over.
It'd have been over.
Why you
But I was
had
a
dumb
good man.
question?
But I was a good man.
Until you called me a dummy.
But I paid the bills.
But until you called me a
I
dummy.
always kept my job.
But until you called me a dummy.
Wow.
The disrespect is at levels.
But so this is right. But this is the thing that we don't understand, right? Especially as a young man
That's
coming
a
up.
disconnect.
If I pay the bills, if I go to work, if I'm not cheating on you, if I do all this thing, what you mean you're not happy?
That makes
Right.
you
What you
a
mean?
responsible man, but not necessarily a good man.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well,
There's a
I
difference.
would refute that. I would say that even a good man, he needs some sharpening. Right?
Well, I would
If you
agree with
could-
that for sure.
So
Yeah.
that's what I look at
Faith.
that as.
Yeah, I
Say
would-
that
You
again.
needed faith that she didn't throw a pot at you after you called
Well,
her.
there you go. There you go. That's right.
Now that's faith right there.
That's faith. So,
No, that's
and what
favor.
happens, and that's what I mean when I go back to the importance of having role models. Like, we had nobody telling us, nobody told me, Pete, you shouldn't say that, right? And I'd be like, well, why not? Because women receive differently than men receive. Nobody taught me that coming up, right? Nobody taught me that, and I didn't have it modeled in my home, so I didn't know. So I'm just continually making these errors, and then you go through a divorce, and then you read some more, you learn some more, you're around people who don't do it, and you're like, oh, well maybe I shouldn't say those things, right? You have to learn.
Yeah, that was a bad idea, buddy. Bad idea.
Well,
Bad
it's
idea.
your fault.
Well, I wasn't around at
You're
the time.
right. Exactly right. You were not around. Your show was not on back in the 90s, dog.
But now we're
That's
doing some
Exactly
things.
right.
Now
Exactly.
somebody's at the door. Christina, can you get that
See,
for
that's
me?
why it's important to learn. That's why you have a dating process, so you
Yes.
can learn the person
Yes.
that you're trying to get to know that person before you get married.
That's right. That's right.
Because if you date long enough, then she would know that your upbringing made you
Made me kind
sharp,
of
mean,
That's right. Mean.
quick.
Mean. I wasn't mean.
all those things that you
That's
were to
true.
her.
That's right.
Is what you had to be to survive.
That's right. Oh, you're absolutely right.
You know,
Absolutely.
And so
Quick with it.
her
That's right.
understanding that
That's
would have
right.
gave her a better understanding of who you were.
That's true. That's if she would have been mature enough. And I don't mean mature like a child. I don't mean like a child.
If you would have knew better, maybe I would have did better.
But if you can understand, because when you get married at a young age, there's a lot that goes into the relationship. You may just not have any awareness and all of that of what this other person is dealing with and all that. And I still think it would have been a challenge because she may not have ever really grasped, who I was as a person. So it was a challenge. I'll say that. It was a challenge. And it was a challenge because of me. You know.
Well, that's good. I'm thank you for being so transparent and crazy at the same time. All right. But Jerry, what about you?